Last week in Michigan politics, places across the state struggling to find what local leaders feel are enough candidates to run for office. What new data found and how the issue could be impacting parts of one West Michigan county. Plus, another rate hike could be coming from one of the state's biggest utilities. The details on the company's intent to get it. And officials in the state's second largest city are planning to fix a busy stretch of road in a major neighborhood. What controversial idea they're backing off of as they move forward. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. One week after state regulators approved a multi-million-dollar rate hike for Consumers Energy, the company formally announced its intention to seek another one. That filing from Consumers Energy, officially announcing their intent to seek another rate increase, was filed on April 3rd and is the first part of a months-long process. But as we expect them to ask for a rate increase, not everyone's pleased with what will be another request. Could costs for many Michigan Electric customers go up in 2027? That's the question after Consumers Energy announced in a Friday filing it would request another rate increase in the coming months. The filing came 1 week after the Michigan Public Service Commission approved a previous rate hike request totaling over $200 million. MPSC Chair Dan Scripps on that order.
I believe that the order in whole represents a balanced order that provides meaningful support for ongoing reliability-based investments, while being mindful of the affordability concerns that are always front and center.
That increase, set to take effect on May 1st, was one Consumers signaled paves the way for their 2026 Reliability Action Plan, with actions including
installing taller and stronger electric poles and increasing the monitoring of our electric grid so that if a power outage does happen, we're aware of it and we're able to reduce the impact.
A consumer spokesperson telling 13 on Your Side on Tuesday that beginning the process for a new request now is, quote, essential to securing approval for the 2027 Reliability Action Plan. But the announcement of a new upcoming request has the state's top law enforcement officer speaking out. Attorney General Dana Nessel saying in a statement, quote, the rate hike just approved by the MPSC hasn't even taken effect yet, and Consumers Energy is already gearing up to reach back into the pockets of Michigan families. The consumer spokesperson pushing back, saying in part, quote, we announced in March we were going to start the process for our next case. While the Attorney General continues to focus on inflammatory headlines, we continue the work of securing the grid and improving reliability for customers. That spokesperson saying essentially the reason they do regular rate requests as opposed to waiting a few years is for predictability and manageability in energy bills. But Nessel going on to say that ratepayers are, in her view, trapped in a loop from the demands of massive utilities. Being as this new filing was not the actual request that we expect to soon see, June at the earliest, it was still unclear exactly how much Consumers' next request will total and what specific projects it would support. A candidate in the race for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat got a lot of attention at rallies he held on Tuesday as they included what many see as a controversial speaker. Those rallies at MSU and U of M for Dr. Abdul El-Sayed featured streamer and political commentator Hassan Piker, whose past comments have appeared to split party leaders on whether to welcome his brand or shun it.
I'm Abdul El-Sayed. I am running for U.S. Senate.
Tuesday, the former Wayne County health official bringing his message to college campuses.
When they tell us we can't get super PAC money out of our politics, we don't back down. When they tell us that we cannot stand with our union sisters and brothers, we don't back down. When they tell us we can't guarantee health care in the richest, most powerful country in the world, we don't back down.
But the presence of content creator and political commentator Hassan Piker brought these rallies much more attention and controversy.
And just this morning, I don't know if you've been watching the Twitters, but apparently the most important thing happening on Twitter was whether or not we were going to campaign with Hassan.
Piker has faced repeated pushback for past comments that many have deemed anti-Semitic, including a post to X in early January about Israel that read in part, quote, "Hamas is 1,000 times better than the fascist settler colonial apartheid state." Both Piker and El Sayed painting controversy over Piker's appearance at the rally as a detraction from other issues.
Just this morning, the president talks about wiping out a whole civilization.
To some, he felt were negatively focused on his appearance, Piker saying this.
To all of them I say, they are united in their hatred of not just me, but all of us, and I welcome their hatred.
Piker's appearance has divided Democratic leaders and the field running for the seat. State Senator and candidate Mallory McMorrow telling Jewish Insider, quote, "Piker is a provocateur, to put it lightly, who says things that are misogynistic and anti-Semitic and said that the United States deserved 9/11. Congresswoman and candidate Haley Stevens telling the publication that Piker is, quote, "the exact opposite of someone I'd be campaigning with." El Sayed telling his audience at the University of Michigan that his movement is built on love for people.
All of us love and revere Jewish folk, our Jewish neighbors, the faith of Judaism. But that love and reverence for the Jewish people is founded in a love and reverence for all people. So how dare I say that I love the Jewish people without standing up against the genocide against Palestinian people?
After one of the rallies, El Sayed reportedly told Politico when asked about Piker's views that he was not there to disavow people's views. And news out of Iowa this week. One of Michigan's U.S. senators doesn't appear to be ruling out a presidential run in 2028. The Des Moines Register reported Democrat Alyssa Slotkin as saying, quote, "I'm not so arrogant as to think it has to be me. Midterms is what I'm focused on right now, but if it comes to the point afterwards that I think there's not anyone else who's on the right path, I guess I wouldn't say no forever." Slotkin narrowly won election to her current seat back in 2024 and had previously served in the House. She's been traveling around the region in recent days, stopping in Ohio as well in support of Democratic candidates and speaking with leaders in Idaho. Slotkin also faced controversy last week. The Council on American Islamic Relations called on the senator to apologize after appearing on Bill Maher's show. They also called on her to denounce Maher, who has been accused of anti-Arab racism and Islamophobia. A new survey out from the University of Michigan shows many local leaders in our state say there aren't enough people willing to run for elected office. And it's appeared to be a particular problem this cycle in parts of one local county. We spoke to the county clerk and one of the people behind the survey to learn more.
Your voice matters. And sometimes matters maybe more than you think it does.
But in some areas of Ottawa County, it looks to be a challenge to find those willing to run for a number of local offices.
But I think we have a reality is we have seen an increase in the vacancy rate or in people resigning from local office or retiring from local office in between terms.
With less than 2 weeks to a key filing deadline, the county listed no candidates for partial terms in at least 5 local posts. And new data from one of the state's top universities suggests they're far from alone.
We did ask about, do you have enough residents who are willing to run for office?
A new survey from the University of Michigan released Wednesday found that more than 3/4 of local officials they heard from across the state felt there weren't enough people willing to run for elected office. Almost the same amount felt there weren't enough willing to serve on appointed boards and commissions.
The why kind of runs the gamut. You know, it's a number of different issues that have to do with just the everyday constraints people face with their time. Another thing that came up, more often than we were hoping for is about a quarter said that they think the potential for harassment is a real deterrent.
But whatever the reason may be, Ottawa County's clerk had a message for those who may be considering.
You have an outsized influence as a local elected official, being able to make critical decisions for your community that matter to you and to your family and to your neighbors.
A report shows an increase in ICE arrests since January of last year, that's standing for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The study was done by researchers at UC Berkeley who founded the Deportation Data Project after they successfully secured data from the Department of Homeland Security through litigation. In Michigan, it says more than 4,300 people arrested by ICE. 13 on Your Side's Aaron Sullivan looked into the data and has more.
A group of researchers behind the Deportation Data Project successfully sued DHS, granting them access to internal arrest and detention data. Now, you might see a lot of major news outlets pulling data from these reports, so we wanted to take a look at them ourselves. It's titled The 1 Year of Immigration Enforcement Under the Second Trump Administration. And the report tracks data from the middle of the Biden administration to the start of this month, showing a sharp uptick in immigration arrests since Trump took office.
The report also found that interior deportations increased by 5 times. Researchers suggest that this is due to the border being closed, creating more bed spaces in detention centers for those arrested in the United States. Now, before 2025, the majority of deportations were people who were arrested on criminal charges. They would be transferred from jails and prisons, but that's not the case anymore. Street arrests have become more common during the Trump administration for immigration arrests. The report also found there's been an uptick in arrests during routine immigration check-in appointments and outside of courtrooms. Researchers are calling this change a new phenomenon. Before the Trump administration, those arrested by ICE were released from detention while they fought their immigration cases. But that's not the case anymore either. Many detainees are choosing deportation because they no longer have the option to be released while they await their court cases. The report also compared data from 6 months before the inauguration to January 2026. It found arrest of people without convictions rose nearly 9 times. Arrest of those with nonviolent convictions doubled, and arrest of individuals with violent crime convictions increased by more than a third.
But researchers suggest that with the One Big Beautiful Bill, this will allow ICE to continue to hire more officers and expand detention capacity. DHS has also told other news organizations that the data is cherry-picked and not accurate since federal officials didn't review the report. In studio, I'm Erin Sullivan, 13 on your side.
Recently, a jury in California found 2 tech giants liable in a case alleging addictive practices. Coming up, the effort in Lansing to protect kids from online addictive feeds. At the state capitol, lawmakers are considering whether to ban addictive online feeds and other features for minors. Last month, lawmakers heard debate from experts and stakeholders, and even a mother who told them she had lost her child. This week, we took a closer look at the issue. This topic has been put in the spotlight recently. A jury verdict in California found Meta and YouTube liable in a case alleging addictive practices. Now, a group of Michigan lawmakers is hoping to stop addictive practices from reaching kids.
London was not born for profit. She was my daughter. She was 12.
In 2024, Sheree Gadd's life changed forever. It was that summer she said she lost her daughter, London.
I will never get to tell her good night. I love you to the Milky Way and back. See you in the morning ever again.
And in March, she brought her story to the state capitol.
We had rules. We had boundaries. I took her phone at night. I was present. And still, the addictive algorithm found her.
Hoping lawmakers would listen as they considered new bills aimed at cracking down on addictive online practices.
We, together, on a bipartisan basis, limited cell phone usage in our schools. We're now asking today to help go another step in protecting our kids.
The so-called Kids Over Clicks package looks to ban addictive online feeds for Michigan minors without parental consent, set default privacy settings for minors to the highest level, and bar minors from using certain chatbot features.
These systems are being deployed at scale, marketed as friendly, supportive, and conversational. Yet they're being released without any meaningful safeguards for minors.
But those first drafts came with pushback and concern over whether parts of the package would be unconstitutional.
Turns out that corporations also have a right to expression, just as kids have a right to hearing and being able to engage in free speech within bounds.
Concern also arose over how kids could get around the measures.
Are we really solving the problems with what we're talking about in these bills, or do we need to go deeper, or what really is the solution?
I think of this as one of the many layers to protect our kids. I think about working from one spot and working our way outward.
The committee did move these bills along in late March, and they are now on to the full Senate. Michigan farmers struggling after a brutal 2025 season are finally getting a lifeline. The USDA is officially designating Kent, Midland, and Allegheny counties as natural disaster areas following a devastating cycle of drought, extreme heat, and spring freezes. This declaration unlocks emergency federal loans to help producers replace livestock or equipment or to refinance debt. Farmers in these areas and neighboring counties have until October 13th to apply through the Farm Service Agency. Check with your local USDA office for eligibility details. The Michigan Department of Education is giving more than $24 million in grants to 56 school districts across the state. The grants will support expansion of career and technical education programs in the districts, aimed at giving students more access to education programs that align with in-demand jobs. Around a dozen West Michigan districts were awarded at least one of the 3-year competitive grants. In total, the Education Department says the grants funded 46 new middle school and 41 new high school career and technical education programs across the state. The new programs range from computer programming to construction trades, business administration, and more. The Education Department says a second round of grant funding is expected soon. It's a popular Easttown street filled with restaurants and shops and bumpy rides, too. Now, as the city of Grand Rapids moves forward on a plan to fix it, they're also pulling back on a controversial idea for that area. The details next. The city of Grand Rapids is moving ahead with plans to fix a busy stretch of Wealthy Street in the Easttown neighborhood, but is backing off an idea to eliminate street parking. 13 on your side's Peter Elliott has details.
Aesthetically, the bricks along Wealthy Street here in the Easttown neighborhood are charming, but practically, it can make for a bit of a bumpy ride for drivers. That is why the city is planning a complete reconstruction of this road, but with that project comes a lot of input from residents and business owners alike about street parking and bike lane access.
So all of it's going to get torn up and then relaid, so it's nice and smooth. It's not going to be lumpy, full of brick sort of potholes.
A grand change to Wealthy Street.
There's, parts of Wealthy Street where I go, this is where my car is broken, but it's not actually broken. I'm very excited to have a smooth drive to work.
Lindsay Bruce lives and works in Easttown for the Rebel Gift Shop and Sticky Fingers Candy Store. She's also a co-chair of the Easttown Business Association.
In my personal and professional opinion, that Uptown is the best shopping district in the greater Grand Rapids area.
But that belief, shared by others, brings a lot of outside interest.
And the general opinion, yes, there are more people trying to get here than we have the capacity for at the moment.
Initial proposals from the city removing some of that street parking faced pushback from business owners.
We, at first, as a business association, we really didn't feel like there was a lot of thought toward losing parking.
In a statement, a city spokesperson writing, in part, quote, "The city committed to additional time for community engagement, data gathering, considerations of adjustments to the design, and review of construction sequencing and timing."
The different sections are kind of being reevaluated. So I know the Easttown section right here up to the Lake and Wealthy intersection was supposed to be broken in this spring.
The project, set to be completed in phases, will also replace water infrastructure and add new streetlights and trees along Wealthy Street.
And we have, I think, come to a pretty solid consensus where we're not going to do huge giant protected bike lanes that take away all of our street parking. There's going to be some mitigation in between that.
The city says it expects to begin construction on this project in 2027. Reporting in Easttown, I'm Peter Elliott, 13 on your side.
A city-owned home in Muskegon has hit the market, but the work that this historic house needs means it may not be for everyone. After the break, how the City Commission will decide which interested buyer will get the keys to this historic fixer-upper. The city of Muskegon is looking for buyers of an historic home it owns, but is in need of work. The Nelson House is up for sale in Muskegon's Houston Avenue Historic District. The home was built for Charles D. Nelson, a prominent Muskegon citizen who has a school and neighborhood named after him. It was slated for demolition in 2023, but was saved by the City Commission when they approved a contract to move the home. Now, the city is actively looking for a new private owner for $150,000. The city commission will ultimately decide which offer is accepted, according to the city-hired realtor Tim Updike. But he says some offers may carry more weight than others.
It's going to get in front of the Board of Commissioners. So if we have an owner-occupant, they're probably going to carry a little bit more weight. So it may not be a monetary decision, like, hey, you got the highest offer, but you want to turn it into a rental. They may consider taking the lowest offer, but going to have an owner-occupant.
Updike says the home needs work, but a couple $100,000, in his view, can get it, quote, really nice. And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.